All right. Okay, so I'm gonna be talking about how we migrated to Elixir and used Ash while doing it. A little bit about me. I'm a software engineer. I work at Travel Tech Deluxe. We are like a really small company, 3 engineers at the moment. We have a partnership with a travel agency in Germany that we built the software for at the moment. And I live in Austria with my dog. I enjoy going into the nature with him, or maybe when he stays at home, I ride my motorcycle. I recently joined the Ash core team, and I don't do a lot of social media, to be honest, but if I'm on a platform, I'm probably Barnabas J. So let's just resume this. And what we are talking about today is what we had before we switched over to Elixir, or like we still have it, but we don't use it that much anymore. And why we landed on Elixir, how to define resources of like Auth is a bit special because we don't use the official package because it wasn't available at the time. A little bit of importing data, integrating external services, adding more interactivity, and at the end we are looking a bit into how you can write extensions and stuff. It's all going to be a bit like short. 20 minutes of time is not a lot to really go deep into the topic. So this is just going to give you a little bit of an overview. If you have questions later, please ask, and I will try to answer them if I can. So the state before Elixir, we were like, I joined the company. It's now a year and a half maybe, and they built the backend before in Nest.js and had a front end in Next.js. And this was only used by the travel designers at the company to do all their work. Just they did everything in Excel before, and this was just to get everything like into digitized format and make it all a bit more streamlined. But by the time I joined, the backend was already like developing was not really fun. The startup times, they were like really bad. Like we are deploying on DigitalOcean app platform, and on our staging environment, we don't have the beefiest machines, and sometimes we have to deploy 5 times because it times out because Nest.js query is doing all the stuff with startup because you don't have compile time in TypeScript or JavaScript. And then the end-to-end tests, they were very slow. At some point, we had to move them off of GitHub because it was just eating all our minutes. We added our own GitHub runner, and the tests there, they ran for 12 hours. So it's no, wasn't fun. And then sometimes when you were developing in Nest.js, you had these problems with cyclic dependencies. I don't know if you know Nest.js. It's similar to Spring with all the dependency injection and everything in Java. And yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of those kind of frameworks, but to each their own, I guess. And all of those problems led to really slow feature development. So we knew we wanted to change something, but we weren't sure what to do yet. And then came the part where we had our next milestone. So the back office application was at the point where we could stop adding new features to it and just had to maintain what was there. And then we wanted to create an app for the end customer where for one, he could book hotels by themselves and also get all their travel information in the app and all of the like support around traveling and whatever, and they can reach out to the travel designers and ask questions and whatever. And so we saw this as an opportunity to change something because we were thinking like, do we really want to add all of this to our existing backend, or do we want to go for something else? We knew that now that we had end customers, there were going to be a lot more users and a lot more traffic because like we know we had like 20 travel designers. That's not going to be anymore. Like there are going to be like one more, two more, and then going to be one more less, whatever. but it's not like end customers where it can scale like very high. And we thought like the Beam is a great platform with the process model and everything. And like I said, we were only 3 people. We are only 3 engineers, and now 2 of us we wanted to do Elixir, so we just went for it and never looked back. To be honest, yeah, really happy with it so far. And like me and the other guy, the other engineer that wanted to do Elixir, we both just played around with Elixir, so we didn't do anything like really substantial in it in the past. We just had a good feeling about it, and we also we were like watching the community and seeing what's going on, and we were very excited about joining. So about last year in August, we did our first commit in Elixir and just built on top of that. And so, as I said, there was already the existing application. So we had our Postgres database, and the first thing that I did was to just take the existing schema, write Ash resources for it, and expose it as a GraphQL API, so it could be consumed by our React frontend. And here are a couple code snippets that should highlight how it's done. Like at the beginning, you just have your module with your module name of the resource, whatever. And you say use Ash resource. You decide on which data layer you want to use. In our case, this was Postgres. And we use the Ash GraphQL extension because we have a React frontend. We don't do live view at the moment. And if you have Postgres, you can just tell it which repo to use and what the name of the table is. Then you write down all the attributes and the relationships that you need. Then you can also add calculations and aggregates to do computed values and stuff like that. And after that, I added, at the beginning, I only added read actions because all I did was expose the data at the moment. And after that was done, to add the GraphQL API, the only thing you have to do is add this code block, GraphQL do, give it a type, and tell it which actions to expose. So this was pretty straightforward. I felt really productive from the get-go. And there was like one thing that was a little bit more complicated was that we had a relationship in one of our resources that was a union of a couple of different resources, and this is not that wasn't that easily done with a relationship. But Ash introduced unions, and they can also be exposed in GraphQL. So we just added the calculation where we loaded the resources ourselves and exposed them, and everything else is then again done by Ash. You can just load the basic resource, give it to Ash, and if the user asks for some relationship on the resource that was returned from the calculation, Ash knows how to load that too. So that was in the end worked pretty well, and Zach helped us a bit in the Discord, so no major problems there. And after I had like the basic GraphQL API, we needed to add authentication. And like I said, at the time, Ash authentication wasn't available. So we landed on POW. And it was pretty easy to integrate. What we did is just follow pretty much the POW tutorial or the guide to set it up, and then add a plug that would add the current user to the context, the AppSync context. And from there on, Ash knows how to pass those actors from the context into the actions, and you can write policies around those. The only thing you have to do is add the authorizer to your resource, and you can add policy blocks like the one in the slide, where you can say if the action is the read action, the user should be authorized if the custom ID matches the ID of the actor. And this is also translated to, in this case, an SQL statement. So the user can just read the resources and will only be returned those that belong to them. So that's really nice. And you can do filters like this in authorizations, or you can just do like normal checks if a actor has a specific role, or something like that. So yeah, that was also fairly easy. Like if you have done it, it's always easy, right? It's only hard before you have done it. So take this with a grain of salt. And then after I added those, I started working on importing all the inventory data from an external service. And at the time, bulk crates weren't available in Ash, but that was no problem because the resource that is defined by Ash is also defines an ecto schema. So you can use it just like pretty much any other ecto resource. And that's what I did. I just called repo insert all and added them with those, like chunked it up and stuff like that before, but that I guess is not the important part here. And while you can model or also have your external data be resources and do the API calls in your actions. In this case, I just had normal Elixir code, load all the data from the API and transform it, and then use the Ecto to insert it into the database. And this is also a bit of the great thing about Ash is that you can just use it with just regular Elixir. It doesn't, you don't have to do everything in Ash. You can mix and match. So it's pretty easy. Like here in the other two pictures, I added some things that we used for search. Like after we inserted all the data into the database, we needed to be able for the users to search through the inventory. And we use, we don't have that big of inventory, about like 40,000 hotels at the moment. So we decided to just use the Postgres internal text search. And this is fast enough in our case. And how we did that is just added the custom statements that we needed to the resource. And this will then be added to the migrations that Ash can generate. And everything is still documented in your resource. And then we added a calculation that accepts the query parameter that the user sends and uses an ecto fragment to match on the generated index. And this worked pretty well. So then after that, we had to add the ability for the customers to book the hotel. So we needed to add a payment. We did this with Stripe. And this is also an example of how you can combine external data with saving it locally by just calling the API in your action. So here I created an action that is manual. So while stuff like validation policies are still done in Ash, all the meat of the work where the actual logic happens is just wrapped inside of this function where we call the Stripe API to create a new session for the client and persist it in the database afterwards. And here I just used another action, create action, the default one, to insert the data after I loaded them from the API. And this is also like, there are a lot of escape hatches in the actions. Like the manual one is probably the biggest one where you can circumvent most of the stuff that is done. You could have done this also with a lifecycle hook, for example, an before action hook where you loaded the data in the before action hook and then just added the data to the change set and let Ash do the persisting without having to call the other create action myself. But there is a lot of code that I would do differently today. Pretty much, I think everyone is like this. Like if you don't look at your code from 6 months ago and think, yeah, I should have done something different, you didn't learn much in those 6 months, I guess. So yeah. So this was pretty easy, and also we had added the webhooks and stuff, and they just call into two actions on our resources, so worked well. And after that, we also had to expose those actions through the user, through the GraphQL API. And we did this also just by adding other actions. Here's, for example, an update action where a user can accept a collection. Collection is like part of an offer in our case. And here you can see that you can add these validations. Like here we check for the correct state before the customer is allowed to accept it. And then the other thing inside actions, if you don't do like manual stuff or whatever, you can add those changes, and those changes are run. There are like two parts to this. Like the action, let me go like one back. Here you can see as change.for create, and this runs the code inside the action block and puts all the information needed into the change set. And afterwards, it's passed to the API, and it knows how to do all the things that are in there. So in the changes, you can do add, like if you just do stuff in the, you can just manipulate the change set in the change, and this is done in the for create here. And if you add lifecycle hooks to the change set inside of the change, then this is run during the execution of the actual action. And after that, I just added policies again, and it's also fairly safe, I guess, in the beginning, because if you like, at least one policy always has to apply to an action, otherwise it's forbidden. So you can't really forget to add them. You can just have too like big of a policy that wraps too much of the actions or whatever, and then maybe you can expose something. But just by default, it's fairly safe, I guess. And then just add the action to the mutations block inside of GraphQL, and that's all you have to do to expose it. Everything else is done by Ash. And then here's also a change, run action. This is a little change we did where we persist an open job in an after action hook to do work in a different domain or context. A bit of like separating those boundaries or doing stuff for crossing boundaries in an async manner. And then the next part is going to be extensions. And to understand extensions, it's nice to, or good to understand the difference between compile time and runtime in Ash. During compile time, there's Spark. This is the underlying library to create the DSLs. And Spark turns the DSL that you see in your resources into a data structure and runs this data structure to a pipeline of transformers. And then during runtime, what you get is this data structure called Spark DSL config that holds all the information about your resource. Left, you can see the top thing of the resource definition. It's pretty big, so I couldn't fit it all on the on the screen. And on the left, you can just see the keys. So you can see these are the sections inside of resources, action, aggregate, attributes, and so on. So all the information is there. Sometimes it's also helpful while debugging to look at the result from the compile time. And then during runtime, there is the Ash engine that knows how to take those resource configs and execute actions on them. And so if you create an extension, you first define a DSL section for it that you then can apply into your resource. And this is just this struct that you fill out with the information. You give it a name, a description. And then down below, you can see the schema. This is where the actual stuff is defined, like what you can add to the block inside of the resource. And this is just an example, like in the old application, what they did is they had created by, updated by, created add, updated add columns on all of the resources. So at one point, I thought that I don't want to add those to all the extensions by hand because I did it like 10 times and I don't want to do it again. So I created this small extension, and then I just created the base resource, used that one, and all the fields was added by default. Yeah. And afterwards, you create a transformer, and the transformer just has like It has a couple callbacks, but the most important one is transform. Transform gets the DSL state, does something with it, and just returns it again. And then there's also this the before and after callbacks, where you can influence the order of the transformers in the pipeline. So if your extension depends on some information from a different extension, you can just say my extension needs to be run before or after, depending on the thing. And then on the left, I have a little example of how you would add stuff to the DSL. So here I just add changes to the DSL that are executed on every action, and they take in the change set and the actor and put the actor ID into the created by, updated by fields if necessary. So this is a pretty nice way to put logic into like one place and use it all over in your project. And yeah, it's nice to have, because then you don't have to think about it afterwards again. And then after you have done those, you just configure the transformers and the section in your use block. And afterwards, you can just add your extension to the other extensions in the list in your resource. And you can add the block, the DSL block, to a resource, configure it, and this runs through the transformer. I also created a little library, because we do a lot with role-based access control, and the writing the policies by hand got a bit cumbersome. And so I decided, yeah, just do a little extension that transforms this airbag block from this schema, where you can have different roles and just declare the fields and actions they have access to. And these are then turned into field policies. I skipped over field policies before. Field policies are also a feature that work like we have policies. Policies work on the action level and give access to specific actions. And then you can also specify which fields of the resource different users can see. So we have admins that can see more stuff on the resource than normal users. And this way we can just write the fields that the user can use, and don't worry about how the policies look. Yeah. Then other nice to haves is the code interface block is you saw in the one manual action where I called Ash change set for create myself and then pass it to the API. If you don't want to do this all over the place, you can just tell Ash to define functions for you on your resource, or you could also put them into a different module if you want to combine APIs or like functions from multiple APIs into one module. And this creates these little functions on your resource that take the parameters, or the first one here with the get by. It also has adds some options that tell Ash to also add the ID as the first parameter. Then you can just call those functions on your resource like you would on any other Elixir module. Then I also mentioned the base resource before. So if you have some extensions that you always want to add to your resources, you can create this kind of base resource with just a using macro that adds the use statement to your resource with the extensions already configured. And the other nice thing is that with the structure of Ash, you have a couple of things in Ash like types, validations, policies, and this gives you, if you just follow those, and this gives you a little bit of this recursive tree structure in your project. And everybody that is familiar with Ash can find stuff really fast in there, and you don't have to think about where to put your files, which is nice and frees up some mental brain space. And then is the Ash, the community and the support. We recently moved a lot of stuff over to the Elixir forum, and you can ask questions there, or you can join the Discord and be part of the community if you want to. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Adam, we want to do questions. Any questions here? No? Any questions online?
Can I steal that extension example, please?
What? Sorry?
Can I steal that extension example for?
So yeah,
for
of
use?
course. I can.
I had several
give you a link
people
to the
asking
slides.
for a good one, so there
Yeah.
you go.
Are you talking about the other?
No, the much simpler example of like adding a couple of fields for your
Yeah.
auditing. Yeah.
Sure.
So I have a question more about your projects.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that really sped stuff up or changed the game or helped you get Elixir, you know, to be more productive?
Yeah, so Ash really cuts down on the boilerplate. So I feel like I'm only writing the stuff that is like interesting. That helps a lot. And then also OBAN is a big part of our project. We do a lot with the jobs there, and I think those two in combination, they make me really fast during development, and they also give me a lot of confidence in the application that is running in production, and then I can sleep at night without worrying about it going down. So that's really nice. Yeah. And like I said, it's also I mean, for people that know Elixir, you probably see the DSL. I mean, it's another thing to learn. But like I said, we were two people like me and the other engineer that already knew a little bit of Elixir, and then our third engineer is mostly he is only really experienced in the front end world and with TypeScript and JavaScript. But he already started going through the project and adding some stuff in there, because he can just say, oh, okay, I need to add an attribute. It's an attribute. And so that's also really nice for new people to get into it. And also the folder structure and everything makes it pretty easy to just inspect the project and see what's happening. That's really nice.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. Sorry. Were there any things in Ash that you got stuck with? Any problems you got stuck on for a long time? Because we at Alembic we have the advantage of having access to Zach.
Everybody has that advantage if they join the Discord server. So yes. we internally call Zach our unofficial fourth employee. So yeah. I mean, there were times where I had some problems, and I wrote Zach at the Discord, and then I said, yeah, okay, I'm going home for today. So, and tomorrow it's going to be fixed probably. So that's really great. Yeah.
I had a question. Barnabas, is there anything coming up in Ash 3.0 that you're particularly looking forward to or actively working on?
Like I'm using mostly the Ash GraphQL stuff. I don't do the live shown things. So right now I'm working on putting there is a way to add GraphQL subscription, but you have to do some things manually. Or just add it to the schema like you would do with like other apps and stuff. And I'm working on putting those into the DSL and having them just be configurable in your resource. That's what I'm looking forward. Otherwise, I mean, there are some things that's gonna be nice, like bulk updates and bulk creates that are like already there or coming. But we already found a way around it. So if you have new stuff to add, we're probably going to use it, but not sure if you have time to go and rip out the old stuff and replace it with the new one. But I think it's also a testament to how flexible Ash is and how you can work with it. So that even if features were missing in the framework, that there was still a way to get everything done. And there weren't any major hurdles to overcome, to be honest. I mean, like every problem that we had, like the union one was probably the hardest to solve for me, but it was also done in a week. So yeah, it's really great. I mean, also 3.0 shouldn't be that big of a change. I mean, there are some features coming, but it's also going to be a bit about documentation and getting the on-ramp a bit easier for people and stuff like that. Yeah.
I think the things that I'm most excited about for 3 are mostly around deprecating some of the less great decisions from earlier on in the project. Yeah. So you'll get warnings saying, we did this once, we don't think it's a good idea anymore.